has sort of the fight week feel changed throughout your career? I mean, you've done so many of them. What point are you in, and can you compare it to other previous times where it felt completely different?
Yeah, before it was always so stressful, trying to get everything done, trying to do everything so perfect. Just the nerves of the fight, it felt like it would take forever. Just those, 4 days leading up to it, it's like, felt like forever. But now, with the team I have around me, they're all just my friends, good people, and it's just kind of taking it easy, trusting the process, and getting it done.
Yeah, and if you are co-main eventing, did you feel like at this stage in your career, being in your 40s, you were going to be co-main eventing a UFC event?
It's funny because I never really put too much thought into it. I always would get a little bit upset that I'm never notified that I would be co-main event, because if for whatever reason the main event falls through, there's the chance that they would say, "Hey Cub, can this be 5 rounds?" And it's like that is a completely different training camp, and just the thought of doing 5 rounds is always a little like, oh man, it's a whole other beast. So I always feel like it'd be nice to be notified that you're the co-main event just in that situation, but I'm just happy to fight wherever I am on the card. I know guys get mad about it, but at this stage of my career, I'm just happy to fight. Whether I'm the first fight of the night, co-main, main, it doesn't matter to me.
And your opponent, Billy, was here not that long ago. He was saying he was a fan of you before he even started fighting. So you're already at a point in your career where that kind of becomes more often. How do you feel about it? Are you proud? Does it make you feel old? How do you feel about it?
I kind of expect it, because I think I have a friendly fighting style. It makes me proud, and yeah, I got no problem with it. I know he just had a birthday, and so I'm excited to welcome him into the Masters division. He's one of the old guys like myself, so he's been around for a little while. So yeah, I'm happy to welcome him to the Masters division.
And at this point, what's sort of the motivation to keep going? Is it the fact that you're healthy and you just want to do this as much as you can because at some point you won't be able to, or do you still have goals, records? We see Jim Miller out there has certain records that he wants to maintain and keep. What's your motivation in the sport at this point?
Just enjoying it. I'd say my main motivation at this point is I have Bloodline, the management company, and I have a whole crew of guys that I mentor, and that I really try to show them everything, what to do, what not to do, helping them with training, their mental game. And it's one thing for a coach to say, do this, do that. It's another thing to show them, So the last couple of weeks when we're doing conditioning drills and I'm beating everybody, there are a bunch of 20-year-olds that are in tip-top shape and I'm winning. They know that I practice what I preach, and so it's not just me talking, I'm showing them the way, and to me that means a lot.
Yeah, sure. And how close would you say retirement is? Have you begun to thought about that, or is that something you don't want to think about until the time comes? What does that mean to you? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm close. I'm just, like I said, I'm just having fun, and I'm still competing with 20-year-olds. I'd say the 45-pound room in my gym is pretty incredible, and it keeps me feeling young. Just being in the room every day with these guys, and having young kids motivates me to stay in shape and want to be youthful. And I'm happy to be here. I'm excited that most of my career has been so stressful, for fighters. The stress that is on us is crazy. And for me to be at this point in my career, it's like I'm just enjoying it, and I'm like, this is fun.
Thank you.
Cub over here. What a year 2024 has been, because you and Buckley were having back and forths on Twitter, and now you're the main and co-main event on the same card to end the year. Kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I figured I'd be asked this, but I stand by what I said. I don't think the younger guys should be disrespecting the older guys. And it's just what I think, and I think that the people that paved the way should always deserve some respect.
Have you ran into him at all?
No, but I'm sure I will, and, you know, I'm not gonna back down from what I said. You know, I was a fan of his, until he opened his mouth a little bit, and I got no ill will towards him. I just, you know, like I said, I think people need to show respect.
Is there anything he can do to get back in your good graces?
I mean, I think just an apology for calling me a hoe, because that's one thing I'm not. I stay true to myself. I stay true to who I am. This is my entire career, so the name calling was just a little over the line. But I was a fan of his until that moment.
On a different note, you said you don't really care about the placement on the fight card, but second straight fight outside of the Apex and in front of big crowds. Does that mean something to you right now?
Yeah, you know, it's more for me. I felt like I really enjoyed fighting at the Apex for a period of time because I just was so sick of having to cater to people, you know, the fans, the close, you know, people that have been around asking for tickets and all that stuff. And I just got to focus on just fighting for a little while, so that was nice. And then on the last one, hearing the crowd was like, oh man, it's been a while since I really felt this and heard this, and it was nice. And it was motivating to want to do another fight in front of a crowd.
Last thing, I wanted to ask you about a couple of your past opponents who just competed this past Saturday. Duho Choi, your co-Hall of Fame fight opponent, goes in there, has a great performance against Nate Landwehr, and then on the other end you had Chrome Gracie, who you had a terrific battle with, and he had a tough night with Bryce Mitchell and got knocked out. What did you think of the performances of those two, especially after having fought both of them?
Well, obviously with Chrome, he hasn't looked as good, and what people don't understand is confidence is such a huge thing in this sport. And you know, you look at boxing and guys, they can have 20, 30 fights and be undefeated, and they haven't really, you get progressively tougher opponents, you know, and you have all this confidence before you go into big fights. And in the UFC, you fight the best of the best, you know, and it's hard to get a winning streak together. And when you start to go on your first losing streak, it's very hard for people to deal with. A lot of people never come back after their first couple losses, and that's always wild to me. But yeah, confidence is huge, and I think Cron he needs some confidence, and I think he needs good people around him. As far as Duho Choi, exactly the opposite. He was a shell of himself. He was almost undefeated. He had a couple losses early in his career. When I fought him, nobody had been able to test him. He had a lot of confidence, and then I feel like I kind of broke that. And then he struggled for a long time. So when he got his first win on his last fight, I was like, man, I was so happy for him. And then he looked so good. And Nate is not a slouch, and he looked so good. So I was telling my wife, I go, look, it's crazy how much confidence plays a role in this, and I was proud of him. So.
Cub, here to your right. 5 years ago, I believe you're the only one back-to-back cards here in Tampa for the UFC. So bringing up Cron, how do you reflect on where you were 5 years ago and being here again?
Tampa's been good to me. Toronto has been the only place that I've done better at than Tampa. Tampa's been good. I'm undefeated here, and you know, I've had good fights. So when I heard it was Tampa, I was like, okay, I'd like to go back there. I've always had a good time, so I'm excited to be here.
And everything that you have your hands full with your Bloodline MMA, we saw it was a very busy, successful week for you guys at LFA 198. What was the balance like for this camp, having their camps and your fight right after it?
Yeah, I mean, as I've gotten older, I call it championship mentality, and that's what can I put on my shoulders and keep moving forward? You know, when I was a young fighter, I couldn't handle anything but the sport, you know, the pressure of the sport and being the best I can be. And then, you know, becoming a father and having kids and having to be able to have all those duties and still still be able to perform was difficult. And now having kids and then having a whole nother set of kids in a sense, is another responsibility. But I was ready for that at this point in my career, at my age, what I feel like I can carry. Yeah, it's no problem for me. And I'll be honest, fighting is not my first priority. You know, it just can't be right now. But I'm still really good, and I love to do it, and I'll be doing it for a little bit longer.
Thank you, sir.
One of your brightest guys, Dan Silva, 2-0 in the UFC. I think he's got another one coming up in March of next year, possibly. How far is he going to go in the UFC? Because he looks like one of those stud freshmen that's coming in.
He's a guy that I believe could be champion. You know, he has all the tools. With him, it's been a matter of belief, which he does now, which is always it's crazy to watch somebody that's so talented, and you just gotta encourage him and let people, you know, find their path. And if he stays motivated and does all the things, because it's a long path to the top. If he can do all those things, I believe he can be champion.
And then when you talk about belief, another guy, Dan Argueta, he's going through a little bit of things right now. What do you say to a guy like that to encourage him to keep going? Like, hey man, don't hang your head on what's going on right now type thing.
Yeah, me and Dan Argueta got a lot of talks. The crazy thing about Dan is he's such a competitor, and he will work harder than anybody. And to fall short, having sacrificed so much, has been pretty tough for him. But he's such a well-rounded person. People love talking to him. People love his personality. I was like, don't beat yourself up, because a lot of these guys, they can only fight. You know, there's guys that, hey man, your best bet is fighting, and that's how you're gonna be successful. If anything, Dan, I feel like he could do any job. You don't need fighting. Like, you're good at it, but you don't need it, you know, because he's just a well-rounded person. So for me, mentoring these guys, I want to give them my honest advice and make sure that they're taken care of long-term. That's my main thing, is I want to make sure that these guys, you know, have families and retire, and I'm proud of the humans they become, not just about their fighting careers.
How do some of them take that? Because, I mean, like you said, some guys, their only focus in life has been fighting, and they put the blinders on, they know nothing else other than fighting. So when you have that conversation, you're like, hey man, I'm not being disrespectful here, I'm just telling you that, man, you can do whatever you want in this life. Do some of them take it differently than others?
Well, of course, you know, but would I be a friend if I didn't tell them my honest opinion? You know, there's too many people in this sport that are giving bad advice because of their own interests, and I don't think that's right. And I'm always gonna be a fighter first. That's why these guys appreciate me, because I'll give them an honest opinion, and I'll take responsibility if I'm making mistakes, you know. Something I learned with my old manager, he used to let me have it after fights sometimes and tell me things that he thought I was doing wrong, and then I'd say, okay. And then I'd come back and say, well, I don't think you're doing this right, and I'd fire back, and I'd say, hey, well, if you're gonna say things to me, I should be able to say things back to you. This is a relationship, it's not a dictatorship. And that's why one of the reasons why I really liking the coaching thing is I'm so sick of coaches telling fighters to do this and do that because I say so, and it's like, explain why, validate yourself, explain why. You know, these fighters they're smarter than you give them credit for, and you gotta make sure these fighters understand why they're doing things so they can become better athletes.
I actually kinda got one more going off of that. There was a boxing fight a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw the clip, but the guy was in his corner, and I think it was the third round of the fight, he looked at his cornerman and he said, man, I don't wanna be here anymore. Like, have you ever had any situations like that with guys in the gym, and like, coach, I don't know what to do, I don't know if I wanna be doing this anymore, like, what would your advice be if you were in that scenario?
Well, it's tough mid-fight. That's a really tough one because if their performance isn't great and they're saying that, then it's probably best to call it for overall health, reasons. But if they're saying that and they're actually doing good, sometimes it's just a little switch. You got to talk them into it. But that happens in careers. Guys do that. That's what I always say in this. Like, people don't understand when you have a 20-year career, your motivations go up and down. And there's like fights you look back and go, man, maybe I shouldn't have taken that fight. Maybe I wasn't mentally ready, and I can honestly say at least one fight I had that I probably shouldn't have fought. But for the most part, you gotta find your motivation, and if it's not there, then you need to take some time off and reevaluate. It happens.